What's up, guys? Welcome to Forgemaster Metal Reviews, the place where you can get the most out of your metal.
April had a ton of awesome albums. We had a part one, and here we are with our albums that we missed.
If you're new to the channel, hit like, hit subscribe. Let's get into it. First one on my list is Fer De Lance, the Hyperborean, released April 22nd on Cruisedale Sur Records. Man, I love me some epic doom. Hailing from Chicago, no less, these dudes have released one of the more exciting metal albums of the month. If you're familiar with bands that come from Cruisedale Sur, then you likely have an idea of what you're getting into. Epic traditional metal vibes, deeply rooted in fantasy and folklore. The band leans much more into the rock side than a lot of the more traditional metal bands on the label, but there's elements of stuff like Visigoth, Crypt Sermon, and even Hammerheart era Bathory on the Hyperborean. The folk and black metal vibes hit me in all of the fields on this album too, man. I love the slightly muddy and raw production to add to that fantasy atmosphere. This album is all sorts of epic. It makes you feel like you're traversing the world full of Conan, seriously. From the acoustic guitar passages to full-on steel-clad heavy metal assault, if you're looking for some heavy epic doom, do not miss this one. 4 out of 5 Northern Voyages.
Diminished Empires is a name that you might recognize because I spoke about their sophomore release, The Dawn of Failure, just a few weeks ago on our Underground Spotlight episode. Be sure to check that out if you have not already. Well, here it is again. I love seeing bands graduate from Underground Spotlight to the best of the month. I think that really says something to the quality of music for it to catch our attention as we struggle to listen to somewhere of like between 30 and 40 albums a month. The Dawn of Failure reminds me of everything I love about early Opeth and Agalloch. There are cinematic post-rock moments blended with dramatic prog breakdowns that flow beautifully into an epic passage with catchy as hell melodies. The rhythm section on here is an absolute machine, and the production is cold and unique. This is a cool album with motifs that got stuck in my head for a few days after listening. In totality, the pacing I think is a bit off, and I kind of wish that the Dawn of Failure songs had been put on their own record, but whatever. Don't sleep on this one if you like your Atmo Black proggy with a tight fucking rhythm section. 4.2 out of 5 Desolate Wastelands.
I'm so glad this band made your list. Super, super underrated. Check them out. Miseration, Black Miracles and Dark Wonders, released April 22nd on Massacre Records. I usually check out bands without really looking up what their backstories are or their members. He makes fun of me for it all the time. I love the mystery. Throughout listening to Miseration's new record, I kept thinking, man, this reminds me a lot of Scar Symmetry at times, and there's a reason for that. Christian Alvstam is in the band. It's been about a decade since Miseration's last release, and man, does Black Miracles and Dark Wonders freaking kill. This is extremely well-crafted melodic black/death metal that explores a ton of different vibes from fast to slow to visceral and intense. I came out of this album thoroughly impressed with the technical approach and melodic tendencies. One thing I really loved here were the symphonic passages to heighten the melodic approach to the compositions. The production is fantastic too, very polished and extremely balanced. Easily an album of the year contender, honestly, in the melodic death category. If you haven't heard it yet, definitely check it out. 4.5 out of 5 Lords of the Underdark.
French prog death metalers Epitaphe quietly released one of the coolest death metal albums with their sophomore debut, aptly entitled 2. Brandon featured this album on our latest episode of Underground Spotlight, and here we are, another graduate. And once I checked it out, man, I was immediately enchanted by the album's ability to take wild turns into progressive and, dare I say, avant-garde moments at times. This 5-track record clocks in at a bit over an hour, but like you texted me that day, you're like, the album doesn't feel like 5 songs that clock in over an hour. It goes by pretty fast. The pacing is perfect. The meat and potatoes of the song is actually in 3 tracks that range about 19 minutes long. They're very episodic with multiple musical segments in each song. It's a really cool way to break up this massive chunk of time. Overall, I was continuously impressed by this record as it went along. I haven't gotten around to spinning it again, but it really left a strong impression with me. I'm giving it 4.3 out of 5 blazing wildfires.
Another killer one. Do not miss Epitaphe. My next pick is Sentient Horror, Rites of Gore, released April 22nd on Redefining Darkness. I usually call New Jersey the garbage state. Sorry, guys, for those of you who are from there, but anyone who has driven through it know what I'm talking about when your car windows are down. You know what is not garbage, though? This goddamn album. This is straight up HM2 worship akin to Swedish greats like Entombed, but with a fresh coat of gross paint. This album definitely does not reinvent the wheel, but honestly, how many HM2 worship bands do? Who gives a shit? Sometimes more of a badass thing is still freaking badass. While most of you are overhyping, yes, overhyping the new Undeath album, which by the way is on this list, so calm down. Sentient Horror came out with arguably a better album. The production is top notch. The riffs are swampy and gory as hell. There's nods to early Floridian and death metal riffing too, reminding me of moments like stuff from Scream Bloody Gore or even Tomb of the Mutilated. To top it all off, the album was mixed by Johnny Peterson, a killer engineer, and mastered by the one and only Dan Swano. Yes, this is a destroyer of an album that you guys definitely need to check out. 4.2 out of 5, Undead Priests.
Somali Yacht Club. The Space is next on my list. This trio of Ukrainian musicians have been delivering an awesome blend of stoner, psych, and post-rock that totally tickles my fancy. I saw Godspeed You Black Emperor twice in a row a few weeks ago, so I've really just been in the mood for that kind of stuff. And The Space totally vibes with my yearn for atmospheric pushing and pulling in the music. This band truly composes music that is introspective. It communicates beyond the barriers of language and culture. This is one of my favorite releases from this year. The Space might not be super heavy, but it's everything I really look for in a post-rock gaze stoner album. It's just completely unique. The Space gets 4.4 out of 5 intergalactic goddesses.
We're not hosting an intergalactic kegger down here.
And my last pick here is Undeath, It's Time to Rise from the Grave. Released April 22nd on Prosthetic Records. I love Undeath. This band is easily one of the better modern death metal bands today, and for good reason. Filthy riffs, great records, and also a fucking devastating live show. Seriously, check out some footage on YouTube. This is classic death metal worship in its finest form. Sure, it's not another band that reinvents the wheel, but damn is it enjoyable when you want the stomp. It's funny, the album title reminds me of an old Sega Genesis game that I used to play all the time.
Rise from your grave.
Yeah, I feel like this album could be a freaking soundtrack to playing this game in particular. There's so many grimy riffs, and the atmosphere is thick with choking gases of rotting corpses that you can't help but keep going back for another spin. I do feel like at times, though, that the riffs are kind of straight up rip-offs of other bands instead of nodding to them. Rise from the Grave straight up sounds like Carcass a little too much at times, and you know, that's not necessarily a bad thing, but a little bit more innovation would have been appreciated. I love the production on this album too. It's claustrophobic in the best ways. The drums aren't clicky and annoying like a lot of modern death metal albums are. The guitars are dank and fizzy and full of atmosphere. Definitely do not miss this album if you somehow missed it. 4.1 out of 5, Reanimation Catacombs.
This one was definitely on our anticipated. It was a little underwhelming, but I would not say that don't check it out. It's definitely worth checking out. Rammstein's Zeit is the 8th full-length studio album from the German industrial legends. Let me preface that Rammstein is an important band to me, and dare I say, us. Yeah, despite having slept on the last couple of albums, I love their entire catalog. As a whole, nothing is really below average in their discography. So where does Zeit sit in the catalog? I'd put it somewhere in the middle of the pack. Songs like Giftig, Angst, and Lügen are really hidden gems. Well-written songs, catchy melodies and hooks. The pacing on this record is great too. 11 tracks at 44 minutes feels absolutely perfect. I'd also be remiss if I didn't mention that the production is absolutely insane on this record. Seriously, the sonic qualities alone put this record into an above average category. I have fond memories of this band from my childhood, and it's great to see them still killing it. It's not the top of their heap, but Zeit shouldn't be disregarded if you consider yourself a fan of the band. 4 out of 5 monuments to aerial research.
You know, it's funny. I'm glad you put this on your list. I was probably going to put it on mine, but I feel like the album, in a way, somewhat suffers from its lack of cinematics. The music itself is super cinematic. You know, you can almost put together your own storyline in a lot of ways if you've already seen the music videos. But I feel like some of the songs, without the context of the amazing production value of the visuals, you sort of lose the impact at times.
Yeah, definitely.
But amazing album. Check it out.
Yeah, and what were your favorite albums that you missed in April? Be sure to leave them down below in the comments.
Go with the gods, Forgemasters. Don't forget to rise from your grave. See you next time.